There's a quiet shift in the relationship dynamic that no one talks about. It's the moment the anxious partner, after months or even years of feeling unseen, unheard, and emotionally starved, finally walks away. Not in a dramatic explosion, not with screaming or accusations, but with a calm, cold clarity that says, "I can't do this anymore." This right here is the beginning of the avoidance nightmare. Not when the anxious was begging, not when they were chasing or crying or trying to fix everything. No, the real terror begins when the anxious becomes silent, detached, and gone. Avoidant individuals often thrive in the early days of disconnect. When the anxious starts pulling back, the avoidant may even feel relief. Finally, space, they think. Finally, I'm not being pressured to open up. For a short time, it feels like peace. But this peace is deceptive. It's the eye of the storm, calm, still, and eerily quiet. Because what the avoidant doesn't realize is that the anxious person's silence isn't temporary. It's not a strategy. It's not manipulation. It's resignation. The anxious partner has spent too long trying to decode mixed signals, trying to prove their worth, trying to love someone who resists being loved. And now their nervous system is exhausted. Their hope has dried up. And once they reach that point, they don't come back. Not easily. This is where the real unraveling begins. You see, the avoidant attachment system is built on the illusion of control. They distance to protect themselves. They withhold to maintain power. They run so they won't be abandoned. But when the anxious finally walks away, the avoidant isn't being left. They're being seen. Their patterns, their fears, their emotional evasions, it all gets exposed. The anxious leaving is like a mirror shoved in the avoidant's face, and it terrifies them. Why? Because for the first time, they're no longer being chased. There's no more buffer, no more distraction, just them, and the emptiness they've been avoiding. At first, they may pretend not to care. They might even date someone new, post pictures, act unbothered, but it's just a mask. Because avoidants are not heartless, they're just disconnected from their own emotions. And now, without the anxious partner trying to keep the relationship alive, their internal defenses start to fail. The silence that once felt safe starts to feel suffocating. They begin replaying memories, not the fights, not the pressure, but the warmth, the hand that reached out, the voice that said, "I love you," even when it wasn't returned. The anxious partner's absence becomes louder than their presence ever was. What's worse is that the avoidant won't know how to handle these feelings, because emotional intimacy is their battlefield, and they were never trained to fight on it. They might try to re-engage the anxious person, reaching out with vague messages, testing the waters. "Hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're okay." But they won't say what really matters. They won't say, "I miss you," or "I pushed you away because I was scared." And so the nightmare deepens. Because the anxious partner, once they find their peace, rarely returns to the same emotional battlefield. They've learned their lesson. They've chosen themselves. It's in this aftermath that the avoidant truly begins to feel what they never allowed themselves to: grief, regret, longing. But here's the tragedy. They feel it when it's too late. When the anxious was crying, they felt overwhelmed. When the anxious was pleading, they felt cornered. But now, they feel haunted by the very love they couldn't receive. And what they thought they needed, space, solitude, emotional distance, now feels like punishment. This is the paradox of the avoidant. They crave closeness, but fear the very intimacy that makes love real. And this isn't just a romantic cycle. It's a wound that often stems from childhood, from learning that love wasn't safe, that independence was the only way to survive. So the avoidant grows up equating vulnerability with danger. But in doing so, they lock themselves out of the very thing they want most. And the anxious person, who once tried everything to bridge the gap, finally learns that loving harder isn't the answer. That no amount of overfunctioning, soothing, or proving can fix someone who refuses to meet them halfway. This is why the walking away hits so differently. Because it's not an act of cruelty. It's an act of self-respect. And the avoidant, for perhaps the first time, is left to sit in the discomfort they've always tried to avoid. They might look back at old texts, photos, replay conversations in their head. They might feel a sharp ache when they realize the anxious person isn't coming back. Not this time. And in that silence, they're finally confronted with the truth. They lost someone who only ever wanted to love them. But here's the hope, if there's any. That pain can be a doorway. For the avoidant who's ready to stop running, who's brave enough to feel, this moment of loss can be the beginning of growth. It takes time, therapy, honesty, a willingness to sit in the fire of their own emotions. But some avoidants do make the journey. They learn that independence isn't strength if it costs them connection. That emotional intimacy isn't a trap. It's a gift. But it starts when they stop blaming, stop ghosting, and start feeling. And for the anxious, walking away is not a failure. It's freedom. It's the start of healing from a relationship that demanded too much and offered too little. It's a return to self-worth, self-trust, and balance. Because true love isn't about constant pursuit. It's about mutual presence. So if you've ever walked away from someone who couldn't meet you emotionally, know this: you didn't lose them. They lost you. And sometimes, that's the wake-up call their heart was waiting for. So if this message hit home today, if you've ever loved someone with an avoidant heart, or if you are that avoidant heart, remember this: love can't grow where safety doesn't exist. Walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the most courageous thing you can do. And if you're the one left behind, feeling the echo of someone who once chased you, don't confuse their silence now for peace. It's often the loudest scream of regret they'll never say out loud. If you found value in this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you're on a journey of healing, attachment awareness, or reclaiming your emotional power, make sure you subscribe. We go deep here, every week. And drop a comment below. Have you ever walked away from someone avoidant? Or were you the one they walked away from? Either way, remember, healing isn't linear, but every honest moment brings you closer to freedom. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and keep choosing yourself.